Harivam. Let us chant the first 10 verses of chapter 8. Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kim uchyate adhiyajna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमं स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरः विसर्गः कर्म संहितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृताम्बर अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् कलेवरं यप्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः तस्मात् सतेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन् कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम् अणोरणीयान्यमनुस्मरेद्यः सर्वस्य धातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्.
सह वीर्यंकरवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. End of the 7th chapter. Krishna introduced a few words. And those few words are the classic technical Vedantic terms, which is not so much in use in the general context. But he introduced it. Having heard those words, Arjuna wanted explanation on those. Arjuna wanted explanation for those words. So he wanted to know what those words mean. What we got to understand is those words are not in practice anymore. Just as certain words go out of, some words go out of use. Similarly, some of the words went out of use, and the set of words that went out of use is these words, but the concepts we still talk about. So what we do here is we use the word and connect it to the concept. So the concepts doesn't go away, the words keeps changing. So this technical words, which is purely Vedic words. And in Bhagavad Gita, he is very careful in not using a lot of Vedic words, because when the Vedic words are used, it has a different meaning, it has a different way of interpretation, it has a different way of understanding. Cannot be done without the help of a guru. Somebody who has studied and gone through all that alone will be able to explain those words. And over a period of time, what happened is the self-learning became, even today, self-learning, no. There's no, very difficult to sit under a guru. All that you need to do is go to the YouTube and you can learn. You don't need a teacher or anybody. YouTube is, books are enough, YouTube is enough. So when books and YouTube where the teacher isn't there, the whole changes. But the concepts don't change. You can't change the concepts, the words keep changing. So what he has done here, in the beginning of the 7th chapter, he spoke about Prakriti, matter. And when we did matter can be discussed from the angle of macrocosm, and matter can be discussed from the angle of microcosm. If you remember, we studied matter from the macrocosmic angle and the microcosmic angle. From the microcosmic angle, that's where some basic study of Vedanta is very helpful. From the microcosmic angle, what is Prakriti? Gross body, subtle body, causal body. From the macrocosmic angle, what is matter? The total gross body, the total subtle body, the total causal body. So all this we should remember. And where did we study all this? Where is it there? There is this book called Vedanta Treatise, the Eternities. In that book called Vedanta Treatise, Eternities, there is a section on human composition. When you go to the human composition, the last topic talks about this. The last topic talks about this. Reference I am giving so that you can go back. It's not something that he is saying very confusing and all. The words there is so different. That's all. Terminologies are different. We get confused. You follow? So there he talks about the individual gross body, total gross body, individual subtle body, total subtle body, individual causal body, total causal body, and names are given for each and everything. I'm sure we will not remember those names, doesn't matter. Even if you don't remember those technical Sanskrit names, it doesn't really matter. All that we got to understand is what? For something that is micro, correspondingly there is a macro. And what is macro? Micros put together is macro. So the Prakriti, nature, matter is of micro and macro. Micro means the individual, macro means the total. So the context is of two first. What is the context? From the macro is one context, the micro is another context. From the micro, certain things will be told. From the angle of micro, it will be spoken differently. From the angle of macro, it will be spoken differently. And then what brought about the Prakriti itself? Another discussion. Okay, after coming, it is split into two, micro and macro. Okay, What brought that? What brought that so that it's split into two, micro and macro? Another discussion, another word for that. This is what he is explaining in these two verses. The words that he uses may be very, very different, but this is what he is explaining. So first in verse number 3, in 29:30 in the previous chapter, Krishna said, I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. Now Arjuna has asked the same question, explain this, explain this, explain this. And Krishna defines it. Arjuna asked, what is this? Krishna defined it. And he gave us a very, very simple definitions. So first question is, what is Brahman? What is Brahman? Verse number 3. I'll quickly go through all the 6 and then we will move on. The first is, what is Brahman? Aksharam Brahma. That which doesn't perish at all is Brahman. This reference is from the macro. Adhyatma. His own being is called Adhyatma. Swabhava. Whenever we use the word Swabhava, we mean Swabhava as in the individual nature, which is a mixture of gunas. Whenever we use the word Swabhava, 99% of the context we will use that meaning only. Swabhava means the individual nature, which is a mixture of the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. We will not talk about it as Brahman, Atman and all. Here, the inner self means, here, Adhyatma means the Atman, the inner self, Brahman in relation to the micro. So there is this Brahman. There is this consciousness. Let us use distinct different words. Then it becomes easy. So there is this consciousness. That consciousness in relation to the totality, macro, is called Brahman. The consciousness in relation to the micro, the individual, is called Atman. So Adhyatma, the inner self, is Swabhava, is the inner self, Adhyatma. Here Adhyatma means Atman. There he has straight away said Brahman. Here the Swabhava, and it is correct also to say Swabhava. Why? Because the innermost core of everybody is Atman. Therefore, it is perfectly correct to call it as Atman. That is the second thing. Third, now we are seeing this macro and micro. This macro-micro distinction you can see after it comes into manifestation only. The distinction of macro and micro can be seen only when it comes into expression. Because only when something expresses, the duality comes. Expression means duality. What is the duality? The duality of subject and object. The duality of micro and macro. What brought about that manifestation? What is it that brings about the manifestation? That force that brings about this manifestation is called karma. Verse number 3 over. That's all. Yeah, that's what he is. That's the definition he's giving. Brahman is imperishable in relation to the macro. It is known as Atman in relation to the individual, the Adhyatmam. This micro and macro manifest, or after manifestation only you can distinguish it as micro and macro. Correct? The manifestation is the distinction of the subject and the object, the duality. Now what is it that brings about the manifestation? The other word for manifestation is creation. The other word for manifestation is creation. Yeah. So, We have to get used to this philosophical terms. We have to use to the philosophical intended meaning of these words. So manifestation here means creation. So when something is created, you see the distinction. What is the distinction? The subject and the object, the micro and the macro. Okay. What necessitated the manifestation? That which necessitated the manifestation is called karma. What necessitated the creation? Karma is the cause for creation. Karma, generally we mean karma means action, isn't it? Generally we mean karma means action. And generally we mean karma means ragadvesha vasana driven action. That's why to distinguish from karma we use yajna karma. So sometimes we use karma to mean vasana driven, ragadvesha driven action. In order to distinguish it, we use yajna karma. Now he is saying karma. Now what meaning of karma here? Or endha meaning podrar inga karma ku? This is the meaning he puts. Why? Because visarga karma sanjitaha. That is the verse. That which brings about the birth. Birth here refers to manifestation. Birth here doesn't refer to the birth of the individual body. It is birth here refers to the, you have to understand birth here refers to not the birth of the individual body. Birth here refers to the birth of the manifestation, the total manifestation, the creation itself. What caused it? What caused it? As it were. Never came out. Never came out, but it has come. You see it. So what caused it? Because when you see the duality, what is the natural question that you'll have? What caused it? Karma caused it. Whose karma and all you cannot ask, because there is nobody there. That's where you got to understand it as that, because whenever you ask about karma, you bring it in individual karma. That's why here we are saying beings, multitude of beings. Bhuta, bhava, udbhava, karaha. One of the complex Sanskrit combination is this. Bhuta, bhava, udbhava, karaha. Romba Sanskrit language therunjadha the segregation is puri. So don't worry about all that. But the plural, but then what it means is the plural. Create the four beings. Plural. Wherever we talk about birth of an individual in singular, it is your birth. Wherever we talk about beings in plural, it means the total. So what caused the beings to, what caused the manifestation of the creation? Karma caused it. You just have to take it. That's all. You cannot ask whose karma. Why? Because the moment you ask about whose karma, you are referring it to the micro. And that micro has already come into manifestation. Here we are talking about a step before that also. So what is the cause for creation? The cause for creation is, what is he saying here? The cause for creation. Manifestation, birth, creation, all are synonymous. What is the cause of birth? Karma. That karma, how to put it in English? He put it very beautifully as the creative urge. Because the moment you talk about a creative urge, again you will have a problem of the creative urge of an individual. That's why you get again creative words in relation to the individual only you talk about. Here you got to understand it as something beyond. Here you got to understand it as something which is beyond everything. So that is karma, the creative force. Again creative force not in relation to an individual's creative force, something that brought about the manifestation. Okay, to give it a very simple example, something that happened that brought about the micro and macro of the dream world. Something that happened that resulted in the dream phenomena. What is the dream phenomena? The micro and the macro, the individual and the world. Now the dreamer's question is, what caused it? Whose karma caused? Whose karma caused the dream world? Whose karma caused the dream world? The dreamer cannot understand it. You cannot say dreamer's karma. Why? Because how can his karma create a multitude? His karma can create only him. Wherever, if there is a multitude that is created, if there is an infinity that is created, you cannot put the entire responsibility of the dream phenomena on the dreamer. And yet you understand what something has happened. What is that something that has happened? The dreamer and the dream world is there. So what has happened that it has come into existence? The dreamer cannot understand that. But then he can only understand one thing. What? Some disturbance. Something has brought about. You can use the word disturbance. You can use the word creative urge. You can use any word. But the Sanskrit word that he has used here is karma. So what you got to do? Simply, just as we swallow so many things, he says in Bhagavad Gita, we swallow this word karma also. And nod our head as though we have understood, and we'll move on to the next. Yeah. What is the next? Adi Bhut, Adi, not Adi, Adi. Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam, Adi Yajnam. This Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam, and Adi Yajnam. Adi Bhutam is the perishable nature. In the creation, there is something that is perishable. And that perishable nature is Adi Bhutam. Adi Daivam, the indweller. See, what is the indweller? Adhyatmam and Adi Daivam is one and the same, but there is a difference you can bring. Daivam, in Vedantic language, we have seen it any number of times. Daivam refers to the presiding deity of the organs. Daivam refers to the presiding deity, as it were. There is no deity like that. It is symbolic. Like we say, sun god. We all know there is something called the sun. With the telescope, you can see sun. What you can't see in the sun with the telescope? The sun god you cannot see. The sun god that you cannot see in the sun that you see is called Adidaivam. Like that, there is Adidaivam for all organs. That is called Adidaivam, the indweller. That which makes something, that which makes it, that which enlivens it. Adidaivam is the indweller, the enlivener. Then comes the sixth one, Adiyajnam. Ahameva Adiyajnam. What is Adiyajnam? You have to refer to the yajna. You have to refer to the yajna. Adiyajna refers to the yajna. That's why studying and remembering the previous chapters and all will be very, very helpful. Yeah. Studying is important, and then remembering what we studied is also important. Applying it and all is your problem. Yeah. How you will apply it and all, how do we know that? Yeah. Studying and remembering. Where does this yajna comes in the first time? Third chapter, when he talks about the creation, at the time of creation, this capacity to perform yajna is, I have given this capacity to perform yajna. That is adi yajna, that capacity. Here in the body, because to do yajna, you need a yajna. Yajna happens in the body. Therefore, who is the yajna? I am the yajna. Okay. And then he went on to say in chapter 4, every aspect of yajna is me. First he said in chapter 3, verses, okay, verse number reference kudukren. Shankar, SRL. 1 or 2 verse, this side, that side, tappa solnana, don't send me a WhatsApp message after that. Huh? Don't send me a WhatsApp message. 1 or 2 verses here and there, because memory, no, it's not there in the front. Though Adi Daivam is making us to say things. So when it comes to chapter 3, he spoke about 10 and 11, where yajna karma. At the time of creation itself, yajna is there. And yajna, we defined yajna. And then he came on to 24 of chapter 4, where he said every aspect of yajna is me. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagnav, Brahmanahudam, Brahmaivadena Gandavyam, Brahma Karma, Tamadina. And why he's talking about Adi Yajnam? Adi Yajnam is a unique type of action. Yajnam is a unique type of action. What is that uniqueness of what is the uniqueness of Yajnam? The uniqueness of yajnam is na mama. You give and then you disown it completely. First you give. Yajnam has 2 meanings. Sorry, not 2 meanings, 2 stages, 2 steps. In the ritual, first we say swaha, and then we say idam na mama. That is ritual. First we say swaha, and then we say idam na mama. Okay. Agni is the universal blue dart. Agni is a universal blue dart. Ippalam blue dart na uru. Agni is a universal blue dart. Blue dart na messenger fellow. You give it to him, he will go and deliver it. That's all. You tell him this is for this person and you give it to Agni. He will take and deliver. Agni. He needs a support. And who always support? Sorting it out. Yeah. And then somebody sits and sorts out. Who sorts out all that? Swaha sorts out. Swaha is wife of Agni. The long story. In the story, the message is conveyed. Such a beautiful message. Swaha is Agni's wife. So what do? You give it to Agni, and the wife takes it and checks what? For Agni to go and distribute it, joint ownership Agni doesn't like. Agni and Swaha doesn't like joint ownership. Co-ownership they don't like. After giving it, you should completely disown and say na mama. A unique type of action. You do it, you give it, and then you disown it. After disowning it, you can't, after saying na mama, you can't ask for ATG receipt. Clear? ATG receipt geta joint ownership artham. Purida? Subramaniam. Government joint ownership. ATG, 35, I don't know what all, GG, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so much we want. After giving, we want so much, isn't it? Agni says, no, here we function differently. How do we function differently here? You give it and then forget about it. Agni being Jatavedas, Kenopanishad. Jatavedas. Jatavedas means all knower. Why Agni is the universal blue dart fellow? He is the all knower. இவருக்கு கொடுங்கன்னு சொன்னா போறோம். அட்ரஸ்லாம் கொடுக்கவே வேண்டாம். You need not worry about the address, pin code, phone number, location. He knows because he's the Jatavedas, so he's the all knower. So what he will do? You say, Swaha Idanna Mama, Agni will go on, do it. Correct. Who makes Agni do all this? Okay. Who gave this job to Agni? Who gave this job to Agni? I gave this job to Agni. I am the Adi Yajna. Okay, our Pandrar Palna, but don't give. Who gave him that? I am that Adi Yajna, oh best of the embodied. 6 questions answered. Then we have the 7th one, which we will read next. So to summarize the 6, it's not that complicated. To summarize the 6, micro and macro. The enlivener in relation to the macro is Brahman. The consciousness in relation to the macrocosm will be called as Brahman. The consciousness in relation to the microcosm will be called as Atman. So Brahman and Atman are 2 different words given to the same entity called consciousness with reference to a point. It is the point of reference that brings about 2 words. How do we know that? The first Mahavakya has already taught us. Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness. So that consciousness in relation to one is this, the consciousness in relation to other is this. And then karma brings about the manifestation of micro and macro. In the micro and macro combination, something is perishable. And that perishable thing in the combination micro-macro is Adi Bhutam, perishable nature. And Daivam, there is that, even though it is all matter, perishable, there is something that is sitting inside. There is something that is sitting inside the presiding deity, the Daivam, the enlivener. Last one is the Adiyajnam. Why? Because a unique kind of action that helps you to remember, that helps you to get back. I alone is the Adi Yajnam. Here in the body. Here in the body means what? I am the Adi Yajna. In the body means what? In the Sharira of the individual, the capacity is there, and that capacity is me. That in the individual, here the body, here in the body. What is here in the body? Here in the body refers to the individual, and that individual alone has this capacity to perform yajna. Therefore, he says, I am the Adiyajna here in the body. Of the 7 questions that Arjuna asked, 6 are clarified. 6 are clarified. The 7th question that he asked is what we are going to discuss for. He is going to elaborate it. The elaboration is done to the 7th question. So we will see those elaborations. One second. Yes.
Perishable means you said it's not dying, but anything that keeps changing the forms. So it means that it is ever present. Yeah. If it is not ever present, it is not going to keep changing forms.
Yes.
So how do you understand perishable?
Perishable is that which the forms keep changing within a state. Within a state, the forms keeps changing, but that state itself is not permanent. The question that she is asking is, if something is perishable means something is there all the time. No, correct? Something is ever present. What is perishable means? Perishable is that where the forms keep changing. Correct? Huh? One. Now, within the state, within the waking state, everything is perishable. Are you able to follow? And that waking state itself is perishable. Within the dream state, everything is perishable, and the dream state itself is perishable. If everything is going on, changing, you work backwards. If everything is going on, changing, at the core, there should be something that is changeless, that is supporting the change. At the core, there has to be something that is changeless, that is supporting these changes. What is that core? That core is Paraprakriti, superior one. The lower is that which keeps changing. There is something that is supporting it. So Adibhutam is that karma has brought about the bhutas. And what is the nature of the bhutas? It is perishable. That's all. The karma has brought about the bhutas. And what is the nature of those bhutas? They are perishable. Perishable means nothing changes. Sorry, nothing dies. The form keeps changing. So what we call as birth is birth of a form. What we call as death is death of a form. That birth and death is called perishable. Nature. Understand it as changing. Everything is. So what is the nature of the elements? The nature of the elements is that which keeps changing. That's all. Are you able to follow? It keeps changing. Adi Bhutam. The very meaning of the word Bhutam means, the very meaning of the word Bhutam means that which is brought about by the combination of elements. That which has brought about, that which is surviving, that which has brought about as the combination of the elements. And what is the nature of those elements? Atmabodha, Panchikarana. What is the nature of those elements? It keeps permutation combination. It keeps changing amongst themselves, and that is its nature. That's all. Where is the difficulty? It is its nature. Adibhutam, the perishable nature. Perishable nature of what? The perishable aspect of, the perishable nature of what? As it were, you cannot call it as Brahman, but in this context, we will call it as a perishable aspect of Brahman. Why in this context we call it as a perishable aspect of Brahman? Because here he is saying, I am everything. But then how can Brahman perish? Clear? These kind of junior level questions and all we should not have. In this context, he is saying what? That matter, that consciousness that is enlivening the matter, and matter has a unique nature. What is the unique nature of matter? It keeps perishable. It keeps changing. That's all. And then there is an indweller that is enlivening it. Every organ has a deity. That is the indweller. And I alone is the Adi Yajna. Brahman projects itself as a perishable matter. When it projects itself as a perishable matter, nothing happens to Brahman. All this can be understood upon self-realization, not now. Don't try to understand all this. That's why I said just simply swallow it. The medicine is given. You don't know what is a proposition, what is a combination, what went into all that, you don't know. With Shraddha, what you got to do? With Shraddha, you got to All this can be understood when Brahman projects itself as the perishable matter, the consciousness and the conscious beings. All this will be understood. All this is a knowledge that comes upon self-realization. Don't try to intellectually capture all this. It is not an intellectual capture. You cannot capture it intellectually. You can only say, அவர் நோ சொல்றாரு புரியல, சாய்ஸ்ல விட்டுட்டு ஸ்ரீகாந்த் சாய்ஸ்ல விட்டுட்டு we will go to the next lesson. Because you have choices, no? You can leave it in choice. No fault of anybody. He is trying to communicate something which cannot be grasped by the instruments. And we are trying to grasp it through the instrument. Are able to see the difficulty in both the sides. See, the Guru is trying to convey something which cannot be grasped by the instrument. That which cannot be grasped by the instrument, we try to grasp through the instrument. 99% of what he says is graspable by the instrument. Please understand that. Not 100%. 99% of what Vedanta says is graspable by the instrument. And that last 1% is beyond the instrument. Here we have the humility to say, it is anirvachaniyam, cannot be grasped by the instrument at this point. And accepting that 1% as beyond the grasp of the instrument is called Shraddha. That is Shraddha. That 1% alone Shraddha, 99% is graspable. There is logic reasons. Therefore, for 99% you don't need Shraddha. That 1% you need Shraddha. Because of your limitations, you cannot be able to grasp it. And because you cannot grasp it, down the line you get confused or disregard everything. That is our fallacy in thinking. Why? Because that 1% is not graspable. And that 1% graspable is because of what? Is because of the limitation of our instrument. And Ram Tirtha puts it very beautifully. He was explaining Maya. See, even to understand the dictionary meaning of the word Maya, you need a clarity on the word Satyam. You need to know what Satyam is. You need to know what Mithyam is. Then only you can understand. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubayorapi drishtontaha, tvanayoho tattvadarshibhihi. Verse number 16, chapter 2. If you have not studied all that and understood it, you can't even understand the word Maya. That fellow, for the first time in his life, is hearing the word Maya and illusion. So so that person got up and said, but where is the logic in it? What is the logic? Ramatita says, change your logic. The fault is with your logic. There is no fault with the knowledge. Change your logic, because the problem is with your, because the instrument has a logic, and what I am saying doesn't fit under the logic of the instrument. And 90-95% of the Vedic terminologies are like that. And why we study Bhagavad Gita a lot? Because he has not used those terminologies a lot. Why we really don't study Upanishads a lot, Brahma Sutra a lot? Because there are only Upanishads and Brahma Sutras are only Vedic terminologies. So to explain each and every word itself will take so much of time. First explain the word, and then explain the concept, and then go beyond the concept. Therefore, what in Bhagavad Gita, he did a very beautiful job in Bhagavad Gita. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum, we say, no? For this beautiful, he did this wonderful job in Bhagavad Gita. What is this wonderful job in Bhagavad Gita? Without using those Vedic terminologies, he brought those concepts beautifully. He didn't change the concepts. He didn't do anything. But all that he did is what? he didn't use those complex words. Why? To understand those complex words of Vedas, this Adibodham, Adiyajnam and all that, Mundaka Upanishad says the complexity. Mundaka Upanishad says the complexity. If you have to understand a Vedic word, you should have studied 6. Unless you have studied the 6 angas, you cannot understand the word of the Veda. What is the 6 angas? Siksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chandas, Jyotish. Mundaka Upanishad says that. Unless you have mastered the 6, you will not know the word of the Veda. And why they kept it so complex? Because the human being has a tendency to go on changing the word, corrupting the word, start using different words. And every word you give, have you ever observed it? Every word, I'm just deviating a little bit. Every word that you use comes from what you know already. So at any point of time, your understanding is always in relation to what you know already. Then how are we learning anything new? Then how do we learn anything new? Whatever you have learned, you have to question it. That's how you can learn anything new. Are you able to follow? Always we have this problem. It's a fundamental problem of education. You know only at any point of time, the meanings, the understanding is always in relation to what you know. So when you read the Veda, you come with a knowledge already, and that knowledge invariably is ignorance. And that knowledge is not knowledge. Even though I use the word knowledge here, it is ignorance. So with that ignorance, when it is interpreted, you lose the meaning. So what they did, Vedas kept it very tight. Great masters like Krishna, Shankaracharya, books like Vedanta Treatise and all that, takes the complexity out and brings the concepts. That's why we read this a lot. And sometime if you have that inclination, you can go. And that's a totally different study altogether, which I don't think including me, I can do that. Yeah, we all can understand the concept and apply and go for it. But very difficult to do that exercise. Therefore, what do we do here? Whenever he uses these words, we understand the concept, and that 1% we just leave it. That 1% we leave it for Shraddha. You follow? And what is that Shraddha? Shraddha is bowing down to that which is non-understandable. That is Shraddha. That is why devotion is Shraddha. Bowing down to that which is non-understandable is Shraddha. Supposing if I say I know God and I'm bowing down to God, it is not Shraddha anymore. Are you able to follow? What is Shraddha? Shraddha is bowing down to that which you can never understand. Like Agni is the universal blue dark, past, present and future. Everything he knows. It is Shraddha only, because you see Agni, where is God in that Agni? You see Sun, S-U-N, where is Sun God in that? You see Vayu, air you can see, but where can you see Vayu? Where can you see God Vayu in that? So what do we see is the elements. What do we see is the element. Knowledge projects, knowledge brings in the deity. The Daivam aspect is Shraddha. The Bhutam aspect is not Shraddha, because Bhutam aspect you are seeing it. The Daivam aspect is the Shraddha. And why that Shraddha, the Daivam aspect is Shraddha? Because the subtlety in life, the maturity in life comes only when you accept the unknowability of life. what they call as in driving spots. They say no. There are some spots. What is that spots called? Blind spots. Huh? Blind spots. It's there in drive. There are some. Life has not one or two blind spots. Life is full of those blind spots only. Then how do we move in life? Shraddha. Are you able to follow? This is the answering the 6. Adibhutam, sorry, Brahman, Adhyatmam, Karmam. Adibhutam, Adidaivam, Adiyajnam. 6 are answered. And then Arjuna asked another question in verse number 2. What is the question that he asked in verse number 2? Antakale, Prayanakale cha katam nyeyosi, niyatatmabihi. That question is to be answered. That question is still remaining. What is that question? Prayanakale cha katam nyeyosi, niyatatmabihi. By niyatatmabihi, niyatatmabihi means by one who's controlled, one who's doing this niyatam. We are going to see that now. Those niyatatmabihi, how will they remember you at the time of departure, prayana? Yeah. At the time of departure, how will they remember you? And beautifully he goes into a lot of elaboration for this question. He goes into a lot of elaboration, or in fact you can say rest of the chapter is an answer to this question itself. So to put it very simply, what is this question? At the time of death, how do we remember? How does, not how do we remember? What is the question? At the time of death, how do I remember? Arjuna. What is he asking? What is Arjuna asking? How do we remember you at the time of death? Arjuna is asking. What is the question? How does the self-controlled remember you? Shankar. You cannot remember is understood there. Yeah, we cannot remember is implied there. We cannot remember is understood there. Who can remember? By the self-controlled. Look at the question. If you understand the question properly, then only the answer can be understood. So people think, how can I remember God? That's not Arjuna's question. Arjuna is not asking, how can I remember God at the time of death? Arjuna's question is, Prayanakale chakatam nyeyosi niyatatmabihi. Niyata atmabihi. Whoever has this self-control, how are you to be known at the time of death? By self-controlled. Abdinna, what is implied in this question? The one who doesn't have a self-control cannot remember him. Or what will they remember? Whatever they are attached to, they will remember. Whatever they are attached to, they will remember. Bharata to Jada Bharata. Bharata, the sage, to deer to Jada Bharata. Remember that story? Then I'll explain the verses. Bharata was the great sage. There are so many Bharatas. Huh? There are so many Bharatas. Though in our stories and all, so many Bharatas will come. So don't ask which Bharata and all. I really don't. Bharata 1, Bharata 2, Bharata 4 and all, I don't know. I only know. In the comic stories comes, no? The skull ring. Who's that man with the skull ring? Phantom. Remember that comic Phantom? I know only Phantom 2, Phantom 3, Phantom 4, Phantom 5, up to Phantom 37. I studied. After that, I don't know what happened to him. Because I stopped studying after that. So, Bharata means there are so many Bharatas. I don't know whether it is Bharata 1, Bharata 2 and all that. So, there was a great sage Bharata. left. He was practicing tapas in the forest, manana, nididhyasana, etc. All the spiritual practices he was doing. And the spiritual practices always starts. At what time the spiritual practice starts? Okay. At what time indulgences start? If you can, and exactly opposite of that is the spiritual practice time, which is invariably the Brahma Muhurta time, the early morning hours, So Bharata was in the river doing his morning, whatever he has to do, he was doing. Even today, when you go on the safari tours and all, they make you wake up very, very early morning and take you. Why? Because sighting can happen only in the twilight period. Do you know that? Lot of sightings happens only at that period. That's why they say, get up at 5 o'clock and come. Or in the evening. Why? That's the time. So, Bharata was doing that prayer. Whatever tapas, whatever he was doing, he saw an event. He saw something happening in front of him. Even a stone will melt looking at that event. And Bharata, being a spiritual person, sensitivity. So spiritual growth is sensitivity. No, what is sensitivity? Not causing harm to, not cause harm to anybody. And if you see somebody in trouble, there is this urge to help. That sensitivity is what is called spiritual growth. Correct? Huh? What is spiritual growth? You are so careful that you are not causing harm to anybody in any form. Thought, word, and deed. You don't do that. That is the first aspect. Second aspect is when you see somebody in pain, even though you understand that they have caused it by their own thought, word, and deed, they have caused it. You will not say it's their problem. You will not say that. What you will do, you will see how you can. That is spiritual growth itself. And Bharata, being a very highly evolved person, had this sensitivity. And he saw something which a stone will melt. What is it? A tiger was chasing a deer. For what? Breakfast. So the tiger was chasing the deer for its breakfast. And it's a pregnant deer. In order to escape from the tiger, it jumped into the river. In that jump, what happened? The mother died, giving birth to the little one. And the little one is floating in the river. And Bharata is standing in that river watching that. Meera is not here, no? I don't know whether she's here or not. During the floods, she saw a puppy getting washed away. Yeah. 4 puppies getting washed away. And she picked up all the 4 and brought home. Now she has a dog farm at home. You go into I don't go into that house at all. Yeah. You go into the house, no place to keep your leg anywhere. Yeah, all over the place. You see something like that, natural instinct is to help with that. As soon as the deer came, what happened? Bharata started forgetting little by little, not immediately, little by little. Little by little, he started forgetting. What he started forgetting? The tapas, the Brahman, everything was forgotten. Why? Because the deer became his responsibility now. These are self-created responsibilities. He simply saved it and left it. No, but what he did, he assumed a responsibility. And when you assume a responsibility, what happens? The previous responsibility you have to forget. See, when you take a new priority, A new priority will come at the expense of, do you know that, no? A new priority will come at the expense of the old priority. In fact, why you call it as old? Because something has become interesting now. Yeah. So what had happened? Brahma Vidya, self-realization and all got slowly disappearing, and deer started occupying. Mental occupation, not the physical action. It is the mental occupation. So the deer started occupying his mind a lot. What happened? The deer goes out for grazing, and when it doesn't come back, he started getting frightened. What? Maybe a tiger would have eaten it up. Maybe a lion would have eaten it up. Maybe it lost its way. Or maybe it found its family and went along with it. What an ungrateful deer. Yeah. What an ungrateful deer. It would have found its group and went along with that group, forgetting me. All these worries and anxieties, Anta Kale came to Bharata now. Prayana Kale came to Bharata. Prayana Kale means the time of death. What is Arjuna's question here? Prayana Kale cha katam nyeyosi niyatatmabihi is the question. What occupied Bharata's mind now? That which occupied Bharata's mind is the deer. Who will take care of the deer after me? Problem. What is the problem? Who will take care of the deer after me? The Creator will take care. Why do I have to bother? Yeah. Who will take care of? So what he was thinking about at the Prayana Kale? Deer. So the next Janma, he was born as a deer. Because Prayana Kale, whatever you think of, whatever you are attached to, whatever you are mentally preoccupied with the whole lifetime is what you will be occupied at the end. You are occupied with materialism and sensualism and involvements and attachments through your entire lifetime, and suddenly at the last breath and all, you cannot think of God. Or even if you think about God there, what will you be thinking? Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu type of thinking. Connected. Still you may think. Even if you think about God, what type of thinker you will be about God? Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu type. Prayana Kalela, Naraya Per Arjuna, lot of people are there thinking about God, but there's Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu type. Not that type. Here is talking about the Niyatatma Bihi, the self-controlled one. The self-controlled. Bharata became a deer. What you think, you become that. You think of the deer, you become the deer. You are worried about the mosquito. Rajshekhar. Mosquito. If you are worried, you are preoccupied with mosquitoes, you will become. Not you, that person, whoever is thinking, will become a mosquito. That's what the law is. As you think, so you become. So the self-controlled one are very conscious and alert to what they think. But what happened to them? They don't attain moksha. Jivan Mukti doesn't happen to them. What happens to them then? Arjuna's question. And beautiful answer he is going to give rest of the chapter. To conclude the story, Bharata became the deer. And then he died as a deer, and he took a resolve. What is the resolve? The மாதிரி ஏதாவது கர்மா பண்ணாதான மாட்டிக்கிறோம். Next Janma, he took a vow that he will not do any karma. He will be like a jada. Not doing any action is a jada. So he took a vow that he will be a jada. And the next Janma he is called Jada Bharata. and Jadabharata, and that in that embodiment of Jadabharata, he gets enlightened, and he gives a beautiful discourse on Vedanta to the king. We are not getting into that discussion. Prayana kalepi niyatatmabhihi. How do they think about you? Is the question. Very beautiful question, and he's going to give a beautiful answer, and the entire chapter is an explanation or an elaboration to this question. So we read verse number 5.
Antakaale cha mameva smaran mukta kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. Antakaale cha mameva smaran mukta kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah.
And he who casting off the body goes forth thinking of me alone at the time of death, he attains my being. There is no doubt about this. Very rarely he gives guarantees. Here he is giving a guarantee. There is no doubt about, there is no samshayam about this. Na asti atra samshayah. Na asti atra samshayah means there is no doubt about this, Arjuna. What you don't have a doubt about? He who, casting off the body, goes forth thinking of me alone at the time of death, he attains my being. 5 and 6 is the thought, the same thought. 5 and 6 together is a direct answer, and then he elaborates. So the answer to that question is in 5 and 6. And then in 7 he is going to conclude. So don't worry about prayana kale and all. Think of me and fight now. Yeah, why are you talking about prayana kale and all? Think of me and fight now. Meaning, think of me and do your actions now. If you think of me and do your actions now, prayana kale, it will happen by itself. That's the answer. What does the self-control do to do that? They think of me all the time. Those who think of me all the time, they get to that point. How does one think of him all the time? He's going to explain that in next chapter. Ananya Sintayanto ma me jana paryupasate tesham nityabhayuktanam yogakshemam vahamiham. Ananya Chinta. We go there because Chinta means thinking, bhakti. As we said, from 7 to 12, he's talking about bhakti predominantly. Bhakti means remembrance, thinking. So, and he who casting off the body goes forth smaran, remembering me alone. Smaran means thinking. Thinking means here, thinking here's remembering. Thinking as in the sense of remembering. I think of you all the time when you say. What do you mean by that? Manoharan. I think of you all the time, sir. You don't think about me like that, but I'm saying. Yeah. I think of you all the time about you, sir. Now, what does it mean? You are remembering me all the time, correct? Thinking of me once. what is his nose, what is his eyes, what is his body, is he a good person, is he a bad person? Not that, no. So thinking here means remembrance. So, and he who casting off the body goes forth remembering me alone at the time of death. He attains my being. He attains my being. There is no doubt about this. There is no doubt about it. Atra na samshaya. Na atra samshaya. There is no, in the matter, you need not have any doubt at all. What it means is, na atra samshaya asti. Abdinna, in the விஷயத்துல மட்டும் உனக்கு டவுட்டே வேணாம் அர்ஜுனா. Why? Because for sure you will attain my being. When you remember me at the time of death. Correct? And we have already seen remembrance as in Artha Bhakta also remembers God. Artharthi Bhakta also remembers God. Jignasu Bhakta also remembers God. The Jnani Bhakta also remembers God. Idhula yenda remembrance? This is where you need to connect and read properly. Are you able to follow? All are thinking about God, but whose thinking matters there? The Jnani type ones, not the Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu type. Why? Because their remembrance has a utility. கஷ்டம் வந்தா அவருக்கு ஒரு போன் போடுப்பா இல்லையா, அவ்வளவுதான். Utility only. Remembrance only when there is a utility. Is not remembrance at all. Correct? And all our remembrances has a utility. Correct? All our remembrances has an utility. With what utility you remember me? With what utility you will remember me? The utility is this. At least next Janma layadu. At least in the next Janma, let me have a better family, better wife, better children, better brother, or definitely this sister. Yeah. For what do you remember? Are you able to follow? What do you remember? Thinking of me alone. When can you think of me alone? When you have made this your lifestyle. When this has become your lifestyle, you will think of me, then no doubt you will reach me. The destination of yours is determined only by your thoughts. Noble thoughts, better. Not so noble thoughts, bad. That's where he says, you make yourself, you mar yourself. You can hear it a million times and still you will think, Nalla government varano sir. Still you will say government should, you need a good government. Still you will say you need a good government. Illana kuda government officer படிச்சவங்களாக நல்லா இருக்கணும் sir. So who determines your future, your destiny? Everybody else except you. Vedanta says your own thoughts shapes it up. You understand this, you will be very careful. Each and every situation that is unfolding in front of you, each and every experience that you are going through is your own karma unfolding itself. Nobody from outside, nobody from anything contributing to it at all. It is your own karma that is unfolding itself. It's your own actions that is unfolding itself in front of you. The joy because you did something good that is unfolding in front of you. The pain and suffering is because you did something that is unfolding in front of you. So it is your own karma. Your own karma that is responsible for it. Gahana karmano gatihi. At least now we should not be having any doubts about karma, because chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, we have studied so much about karma. So what is Gahana karmano gatihi? At chapter 8 is not Gahana karmano gatihi, because it is very clear to us now. What is very clear to us now? Every situation that you encounter, every situation that unfolds in front of you, every experience that you go through is your own karma unfolding itself. So you shaped up your present by your past. You shaped your present by your own past. In the same way, by doing something in the present, you can shape up your future. Some reach heights of perfection because they entertain noble thoughts. Some don't entertain, some or most don't entertain noble thoughts. Okay, if you are not entertaining noble thoughts, what thoughts are you entertaining? Sir, if you are not entertaining noble thoughts, what kind of thoughts are you entertaining? Selfish and self-centered. Oh no, sir, this is wrong, sir. This we will not agree. Why? I may not be entertaining noble thoughts and all, but definitely I am not entertaining selfish and self-centered thoughts and all. I don't entertain. This I beg to differ. If you are not entertaining noble thoughts, you are entertaining selfish, self-centered thoughts. What is law of karma? Law of karma doesn't worry about whether you remember you have entertained it or not. Law of karma says the fact that you have entertained it, you have executed it, and you will forget it, but the pala will come back without forgetting. The doer will forget. Carefully follow. The doer will forget. The pala doesn't forget. It will come back. So people say, I didn't do anything to deserve this. From childhood, sir, I have doing only good karma only, sir. Shankar, correct, no? And I'm seeing you for 40 years, not one good karma he has done till now. But he was giving me a lecture the other day. Yeah. From birth, sir, I can't think of doing any bad action at all, only good action. I was about to prostrate to him, thinking that what, maybe Ashtavakra sitting in, even Ashtavakra sitting in front and talking. I entertain a thought and I forget it. I entertain a thought and I forget it. Law of karma says, but I don't forget. That's why it's a law. It will come back. And when it comes back, since you have forgotten about it, you think you are not responsible. Are you able to follow? You entertain a thought and you blissfully forget about it. Now that you have forgotten about it, even if somebody comes and tells you you did it, you will not remember. Why? Because you will ask for a proof. Who can give proof of your thoughts that you are entertaining? In the video camera, yeah, what? We have these cameras everywhere nowadays, no? Yeah, you walk into the building, there is a camera. You go into the lift, there is a camera. You go into the front of the house, there is a camera. You go into the, maybe in each and every house also they have cameras. Okay, you can have all the cameras, but the intentions behind the word that you use, the intention behind the thoughts that you have entertained, it is captured. It is captured and comes back. Having done it, you forget it. Law of karma says, just because you have forgotten about it, just because you don't remember it, You cannot escape. Some reach great heights to perfection by entertaining noble thoughts. Some degrade themselves through their base thoughts. Base means selfish, self-centered. As you think, so you become. As you think, so you become. You cannot have two opposite thoughts at the same time. You can't be selfish and selfless. Either you are selfish or you are selfless. Or you are making an attempt to become selfless. When you are making an attempt to become selfless, there is a time involved. In that time, whatsoever you experience, you are not agitated by it, you are not disturbed by it, you are not confused about it. Why? Because you have understood it is your own making that has come to you. Able to follow? That's why the spiritual seeker never has a complaint about anything. He doesn't complain about anything. Otherwise, we all the time complain about environment not being. Environment is not conducive, sir. I am ready. But environment is not conducive. And what is environment? You come and live in my house, sir, you will know. Yeah, what the environment? Only if you come and live in it's easy for you to talk, sir. Enga veetla vandu irundhu paarenga. Appada you come and live in my house only, you will know. He who cast off the body goes forth thinking of me alone. At the time of death, he attains my being. There is no doubt about this. Talking about reincarnation. This verse and the next verse is talking about reincarnation. And wherever reincarnation is spoken about, Krama Mukti comes into discussion. Technically speaking, which I am going to take it up in the next class, not today. Next class, I am going to take it up. The reincarnation, and wherever we talk about reincarnation, Krama Mukti will be Krama Mukti will come into the discussion. Even though Krishna is going to say at the end, don't worry about this Krama Mukti and all this thing. Simply, there is a direct path. He's going to say that also at the end. So he's introducing what now? He's introducing the thoughts is responsible for your future. Thoughts means actions. Thoughts, actions all put together. So your thought, word and deed of today is responsible for your future. He's talking about the reincarnation. Wherever reincarnation comes about, Krama Mukti comes into discussion. So we will discuss about that also a little bit in the next session. First thing that you have to today that you have to understand is, don't give it a literal meaning. People give it a literal meaning. The first mistake that people do, they give it a literal meaning. What is the literal meaning? You can live life the way that you want, sir. All that doesn't matter. Last thought. Yeah. Narayana solli pranana utta poru. You will go to Vaikunta. It's against the law of karma. How can you do that? How can see, human beings make the law and we break the law. Because the humans are the lawmakers and the humans are the lawbreakers. Narayana is not like that. He is the lawmaker and the first person obeying the law is Narayana himself. What is that Narayana himself says? Last Narayana, you will not come to Vaikunta. You have to go through the consequences of it. But I have heard like that in that story, no sir. But I have heard like this in this story, no sir. கார்ட்டூன் பார்க்க வேண்டியவங்கள கிளாஸுக்கு வந்து அந்த ப்ராப்ளம் தான் வரும். கரெக்ட்? அந்த ஸ்டோரியில் எப்படி சொன்னாங்களே சார், இந்த ஸ்டோரியில் எப்படி சொன்னாங்களே சார்னா we are still at the level of cartoon only. இல்லையா? டாம் அண்ட் ஜெரி கார்ட்டூனே பார்த்துன்னு இருக்கணும் இல்லையா? we should not come and sit in a logic and reason class. If you come and sit in the logic and reason class, you have to let go of the cartoon. Yeah. And I should not be saying that because, yeah, I should not be saying that because even last night I was watching Tom and even last night I was watching Tom and Jerry. Oh my God. Next to Brahman, you can never get bored with is Tom and Jerry. No, Punit. You cannot get bored with Tom and Jerry. If anybody gets bored with Tom and Jerry, that's it. Another Janma only for that. What a entertainment, what a comedy it is. What a fun it is. So don't take it literally. The first thing that you have to understand today is not to take it literally. Why? Because it's against the law. It's against the law. It won't happen like that. How can it happen like that? Or even if you are thinking about Narayana, you will be Artha Jignasu Bhakta. Not the Jnani Bhakta, the true type of Bhakta. Therefore, that misunderstanding we remove for today. And then rest of the deeper interpretations, we will continue to read in the next class. We continue with verse number 5 and then we'll move on to verse 6 in the next session. Anything we have? Any clarifications or anything we have?
Mala has posted a few questions.
Mala. The first question, she has posted a few questions. Is the creative force our thoughts and actions? So, okay, all the questions that she is asking is in relation to the creative force, karma only. So, the first question, is the creative force our thoughts and actions? I have already answered it. Our thoughts means you are referring to an individual. Here we spoke about karma as in that which caused the phenomena to come into existence. That which caused the phenomena to come into existence is karma. That is called creative urge, creative force. What is visarga? The Sanskrit word she is asking, because the verse that he says is bhuta bhava udbhavakaraha visargaha karma sanjitaha. Visarga here refers to the manifestation, birth. Birth means not the birth of the body, the birth of the totality. Okay, to put it very simply, how do you understand the totality? Do you understand the totality as a krama srishti, or do you understand the totality as manifestation? Logic says krama srishti. Krama srishti means Upanishads has this debate. Is srishti krama or is srishti manifestation? Krama srishti means sequential creation. Sequential creation means from unicellular to bicellular, bicellular to multicellular, multicellular to microbes, microbes to I don't know what, to what, to what, and then suddenly monkeys. From monkeys, not directly to human beings, from monkeys to, what is that monkey? You can't call it monkey, no, they have a different name for that. There's a different name for that. Even today, you see some of the zoo apes. There's another kind of thing. So, this is called krama srishti. And then Neanderthals, and then from Neanderthal we have become this. From this we have become this, and the creation is still continuing. And the latest thought is all the mental things that people are having is srishti refining itself. This argument is called krama srishti. Are you able to follow? One line of thinking, which is based purely on logic and reason by the instrument buddhi. This is one kind of srishti. Another kind of srishti is the dream phenomena. Another kind of srishti is the dream. Are you able to follow the dream creation? When the dream comes about, everything comes into manifestation. And when it falls back, see, if srishti is in sequence, destruction also must be in sequence. So it means all the human beings will die first, and then they will die, and then this will die. Logically, it seems to be very correct. We are not dismissing that. But it is applicable. It is applicable only in relation to the instrument logic and reason. Are you able to follow? Vedanta gives a different approach. He says, think of it beyond the limitation of your instrument. When you think of it beyond the limitation of your instrument, how do you understand that? Like the dream phenomena. The dream phenomena brings about the dreamer and the dream world simultaneously. The destruction of the dream world is also the dreamer and the dream world dissolves simultaneously. So, is creation simultaneous or is creation sequential? That's all. Fundamental point. Science says it is sequential. Philosophy says it is simultaneous. We are not saying science is wrong. The instrument that science uses will have to conclude that way only. If senses were the instruments for creation, how creation will look? Okay, if senses were to see creation, how does creation look? Whatever is there in front of the senses is there. If it is not there, it is not there. Correct? If senses were the instrument to see creation, if mind is the instrument to see creation, if intellect is the instrument to see creation, different angles of creation, Vedanta comes and says, we use a different methodology. The different methodology that we use is those who are enlightened, what do they say about it? Are you able to follow? Those who are enlightened, what do they say about it? Those who are enlightened is the Vedas. Vedas means the teachings of the enlightened ones. That is Vedas. So what does the Vedas say about it? It doesn't propose any theory. It doesn't propose any complex thought. It doesn't propose anything. It says, this is how it happens. How does it happen? Simultaneous. That force that brings about the simultaneous thing, a word has to be given to that. What is that word that is given to that here? Karma, creative force. Karma and creative force are both the same. They are not the same. Karma means an individual action. Karma means is always in relation to the individual we talk about. In this context of the word karma, I explained it. In this context, the word karma doesn't mean the individual thought and action. It means that which brought about the manifestation. It means it was an unmanifest form. Something happened and it brought about a manifestation. Sankhya has its own reasoning. What brought about the manifestation there? The gunas were in equilibrium. When the gunas got disturbed, that is that action. That's how creation came. You go to the Nyaya, they give another reason. They give another reason. Meaning they all try to explain the first point. Vedanta says that first point of explanation is to the junior student, to the advanced student, and we all can brainwash ourselves to believe we are advanced students. We all can self-certify ourselves. We are all advanced students. What is that advanced thinking? It is simultaneous and beyond the grasp of the instrument. So here karma means that creative urge. Any explanation of this karma will be confusing because creative urge implies a motive, restlessness. If you say Brahman is causing everything, then you have to bring motive to Brahman, then you have to bring restlessness to Brahman. But then how do we explain it? Some example we have to use, no? Some example, that is some word we have to use. And what is that word that is used? Creative. Creative urge is the word that is used. Is it okay, Mala? Yes. Is it okay? Answering only one question. Ask this to yourself. Is creation simultaneous or is creation sequential? Krama Srishti. Upanishad discusses these two. Upanishad says, is it krama or simultaneous? If you are using the instrument intellect, simultaneous looks illogical. That's why science, which is using only the intellect as an instrument and intellect as the ultimate instrument. See, when we say use of instrument, now what does it mean? The ultimate instrument, beyond that no other instrument exists. Are you able to follow? Balakrishna. Intellect, when we say use of the instrument, mean this is the ultimate instrument and there is no other superior instrument ever available, ever present. In Vedanta, we say there is the fourth. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, the fourth. What is the fourth Pramanam? The fourth Pramanam is Vedas, Vedanta, Agama. That Pramanam says creation is simultaneous. That creation is simultaneous. Are you able to follow? So first level, we accept it as Krama Srishti only. The first level, we also accept it as Krama Srishti. We don't dismiss it. We don't call it as wrong. But we say it doesn't really explain creation completely. Because for that unicellular to come, what was before that? So it means we have two things. One is Brahman and unicellular organism. And what made the unicellular organ? If only unicellular organism was there, it should be perfect in itself. If only it is there, not the second, it is perfect in itself. If that unicellular organism is perfect in itself, what made it to become bicellular? The very fact that it became bicellular means it's not perfect in itself. It is looking for a betterment. And in creation now, human beings is the best. No. Human beings lay body level of best, sir, but intelligence is changing now. Intelligence is becoming better and better. So all these arguments comes under Krama Srishti. Srishti as in sequential. Vedanta says it is simultaneous. How do we understand simultaneous? The dreamer and the dream world comes together. If appearance is together, dissolution also will be together. If appearance is sequential, dissolution also has to be sequential. No, sir. Appearance will be sequential. Dissolution on the one wave can swipe the entire thing. Again, it doesn't fit under the krama. It doesn't fit under the sequence. Are you able to follow? Vedanta accepts krama at one level, and then we say it is akrama at another level. Yeah, beautiful is the word akrama. Tamil solranga akrama mandram, not that meaning. And the meaning akrama means the sequence is missing. It will not be sequential. If it is not sequential, means the intellect will misunderstand it as erratic, sporadic, chance. If you don't understand the sequence, how the intellect will grasp it as? It will misunderstand it as chaos. So To escape chaos, we come to sequential. இதெல்லாம் கேட்கவே இல்லை சார், தலை சுத்துறது எங்களுக்கு இல்லையா? Who asked for all this? To escape chaos, we come to sequence, and then we understand the limitations of sequence also. Philosophy takes it to the next level. To escape chaos, we bring to sequence, and then we don't accept sequential as ultimate, because chaos and sequence is dvandvas, pairs of opposites. And the reality is above dvandvas. அப்படி படிக்கணும் அதுக்கு. Prasad, correct? But sir, we have been listening for so long. இப்படிலாம் சொல்லவே இல்லை. Out of syllabusல இருந்து புதுசா yeah, we have been listening to you for 30-40 years. We are listening புதுசா வார out of syllabus. You are creating new things. Out of syllabus எல்லாம் வேற இருக்குது. சரியா பிரசாத்? குரூப் டிஸ்கஷன்லாம் இதை கோட் பண்ணாதீங்க. Yeah, you will be born in, yeah, you will be torn apart. Chaos to sequential, transcending both. It's a beautiful development of thought. That's why we say the rigor of Vedanta, even the sciences and mathematics and all, pale into insignificance when compared to the rigors of the analytical methods of Vedanta. It is chaotic. No. It is sequential. If it is sequential, means chaos is taken care of. But then it is not fully sequential either. Something transcending that also. Seriya? Mala. Think about it. Beautiful it is. Yeah, just stay with this. Normally we don't talk about these things. We really do, unless somebody irritates and triggers. Yeah, somebody irritates and Mala asked a lot of questions that is creating so much of irritation and anger. And that irritation and anger answers comes out like this. So I will be very irritated with Mala. All of you be thankful to Mala. Seriya? We conclude for